Welcome to today's episode of the Well World Wednesday show. And I'm so excited because these are the type of topics I love to share, and we're going to dig in to the inner child. But before we get there, Well World TV has really adapted to this current environment, and we are onboarding live hosts as we speak. We have 6 new shows on our Facebook page. Make sure if you aren't following, jump over to @WellWorldTV on Facebook, give us a follow, and we're ready to work with you. So if you're ready to host your own show, you're ready to up level and get your voice out there, give us a call. So let me introduce you to today's guest. We have Raelin Saindon. I always ask my guests in advance, tell me how to pronounce this so I totally don't annihilate your name out of the gate, which I'm glad she did because it's spelled with a, I could have said Saindon.
A lot of people do.
Exactly. My name's always messed up too.
Yes.
So Raelin has so much training and certification. She's a certified life regressionist. Very interested about that. A hypnotist, a certified in emotional code, and also a Reiki master teacher. Is there anything else before we jump in you would want the audience to know that you have training in?
Yes. Also, I am a certified Ho'oponopono practitioner.
All right. Yes, I was going to say, you could say that one.
Yep. And then I have an undergrad Bachelor of Science in Psychology, and I'm going to be finishing up my master's in mental health counseling as well. So
perfect.
Yeah.
You like to educate yourself.
I do. I absolutely do. I think that it's important for us to continue our learning, to continue growing, to continue evolving. Mm-hmm. Right. So absolutely. And, this is a great topic to talk about with the inner child, because as a child, I was highly curious, I questioned everything. I drove my mother nuts, wanted to know what this meant, that meant, and the other. So I love learning. So absolutely.
That obviously continues in adulthood for you.
Yes.
So yes. Always a learner. That's amazing.
Yeah.
All right. Well, let us jump into inner child work. And I think, for the general public, when you talk about the inner child, some people might kind of roll their eyes and say, oh, okay, what is this inner child stuff? I have a personal story I shared in one of my Psychology of Well-Being episodes, in which I actually met one of my archetypes, one of my inner children's, what do you call them? Childs.
Right.
Face to face. I was in almost a dream state. And I was walking, I had a vision that I was walking down a path as my adult self, and I saw a very small child up ahead of me in the distance. And I got fearful for them. I was afraid, who left her? Why is she abandoned? Why is nobody helping her? And I went up to her and to get, I kind of touched her shoulder to get her attention. And when she looked up and our eyes met, I saw myself. Wow. And I saw everything became so clear to me. I saw attachments that I was holding to my father. I saw that really she had been waiting for me to show up. And I also saw, I felt a sense that this was me in the moment when I realized that love was conditional.
Yeah.
And that was really probably the first wound maybe we have as children, and we carry that with us. And I have since other archetypes in myself too, but I want to hear your explanation so people understand what is the inner child, or what is inner child work.
I have chills you talking about that. It's incredible, and it's such an impact, right? When we have those personal experiences where we meet ourselves, really. So the inner child is fascinating. I mean, there's a song that I love, and I think it's by a band called the Birds and the Bees, but the title of it is "We Are All Just Taller Children." And that's absolutely true in our lives, So an archetype is basically a representation or a symbol. Joseph Campbell calls it our mythology. He talked a lot about the hero's journey and other archetypes. Carl Jung, the psychotherapist, he was a colleague of Sigmund Freud. He started really studying and diving into archetype and how that presents within depth psychology and things like that, right? Mm-hmm. So archetypes have been around for a very long time. Plato talked about them, Socrates talked about them. They're essentially these symbols, these representations of parts of us that we flow through in life and serve a purpose for us, for ultimately for our self-awareness, for self-reflection, and for ultimately healing. Now, not everyone becomes aware. Not everyone wakes up to this, and not everyone desires to heal, right?
That's what I was going to say. Not everybody maybe is fortunate, like I feel like I am at times, to have sort of visions that bring me clarity. Right. So are there basic archetypes that seem to exist for most people? And can you kind of describe what those are?
Yeah, absolutely. So Jung basically brought to the forefront 12. I won't go into all 12. Carolyn Mays kind of builds on that too, but the foundational ones are the inner child, the hero or savior, the martyr, the victim, the clown, or the jokester, if you want to call it. And these archetypes, again, like I said, they kind of follow us in life. They're representations of maybe periods of our life, or you referred to different concepts and different wounds, right, early on. The big one that you talked about is attachment. You know, when we come into this world, we are very, very dependent upon the caretakers in our lives, the adults, our family of origin, etc. And attachment is foundational to our sense of security and safety. You know, that's that root chakra need that we have as a child. So it's not a surprise that that showed up for you. It shows up for all of us in a myriad of ways. You had your vision. Some people have a life-stopping or life-altering event that brings them to the end of how they've been functioning all along and brings them to that healing crisis, right?
Yeah.
And reveal.
Our knees are in the mud and our faces in the dirt and we have grit in our teeth. And then we're like, okay, I get it.
Yes. Like, wasn't it on Sandlot? Or I think of the Our Gang shows back in the day, you know, with pounding the face in the dirt, you know, and tapping out, you know, 100%. And life will always take us to that point. It's whether or not we're listening. It's whether or not we're willing to say, okay, hey, here's my timeout. What is this teaching me? What is being communicated to me? Like you had that moment of awareness and you met yourself and you went, oh, this is a core wound. This is a core thing, being loved conditionally. That's huge. And I would say probably everyone in the audience watching has that recognition and has felt that a time or two, and can even say that they themselves have given love conditionally.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. Well, I think my key lesson, and, you know, I'm, if you talk about, okay, what did I learn from that moment? And everybody has their own moments. What I felt like I learned is that if I had experienced a wound at such a young age that was not healed in the moment, that there was part of me that stayed broken and was waiting for that to be healed.
Yeah.
But what transpired is that I was waiting for other people to show up and heal that. Why couldn't my dad be more supportive? Why is my mom the way she is? Why was my husband this, that, or the other? And it was like this sort of needy energy of somebody was put on this earth, obviously it's me. You know, I'm here waiting for them to show up.
Yes.
And so when I had that vision, the clarity was, whoa, I have been waiting for me to show up. I think I was 45 years old at the time. So, and I felt so bad because I was like, you know, my parents were only responsible for me for a certain period of time. I have been responsible for me since then.
Right.
And I haven't shown up for myself. And I remember in the vision, I picked up that little girl, I felt her legs kind of wrap around my waist. And I said, I'm so sorry it took me so long, and I'm here now.
Don't
I
get me crying, Debra. We'll have snot. Oh my God.
It's not like everything's fixed, like, oh wow, my life is awesome now. It's not like everything's perfect.
Right.
But I go back to that moment often when I find myself kind of resorting back to that sense of somebody's disappointed me, somebody's let me down, somebody's not showing up for me. Yes. And all of a sudden I'm like, wait a second, are you showing up for yourself?
Amen. Those seminal moments, right? Where we have that awareness that we are at 100% cause in our own lives. We talk about children, they are very dependent when they come in, but prior to our coming into this world, we have these soul contracts that we enter into, and the choosing of our parents, the choosing of where we are born, the choosing of our own appearance, the choosing of the culture, the time that we're born into, etc. Because all of those give us those rich experiences to help us with our ultimate healing and our awakening. Ho'oponopono teaches that we are responsible for those things that come into our lives that we become aware of in this moment. And oftentimes people want to say, well, how am I responsible for the wounds of my childhood?
Right.
I have a childhood filled with trauma. I was neglected. I have attachment issues, just like you. I didn't know my biological father. I was molested by my stepfather, and my mom really wasn't present. I was a parentified child, meaning I was the parent for her. She used me as somebody to parent her and soothe her. So a lot of weird, crazy mixed messages there. Well, Ho'oponopono teaches our life doesn't happen to us. Our life happens for us. And anything that comes into our experience, it is for us to examine it, to clean it, to clear it, release it, let it go with love and forgiveness, and transmute that. And as we do that, in that moment that you held your child, that aspect of you, and said, I am here for you, and I'm here to protect you now, and I love you without fail, right? That healed that part of you and transformed, even maybe on a level that you weren't aware of at the time, but it healed your relationship with your parents. It healed their interactions with other people. It healed your ancestry. It healed your relationships around you, with friends, with other family members, with coworkers, etc. And that's the power that this work has when we are open to receiving its messages. Yeah, it's huge.
So what's the process for somebody who is just, maybe watching this and saying, wow, I'd like to learn more, but they're not necessarily going to be in a fugue state and have a vision. Yeah. And all of a sudden, they're walking down a path towards their young child, their inner self. How does somebody really grasp this type of work from maybe a mental perspective, so that this starts to become beneficial and create more happiness in their life?
So the first thing, the foundational thing, is awareness, right? It's noticing, what are my trigger points? When I notice that I'm getting upset, say there's an interaction with me and a coworker, and I feel slighted, or the coworker and I were collaborating on a project, and she or he is tooting their horn and talking about what they've done in the project. Right. And I'm sitting over here seething and really quiet and being small, right?
What a jerk.
Exactly. Taking my shine, whatever. Well, are they really taking my shine, or are they simply speaking to what they've done within the project? And that is a mirror reflecting back at me to my own inadequacy or fear of shining, fear of speaking up. As women, we're conditioned to be good little girls, and you don't brag about yourself. You're not conceited. Nobody etc. You're not the star of the show, right? Exactly. So
Today.
we are the star of the show today. You created your own network, so you're the star of the network, right? And shine that bleep on, girl. But, so it's these moments of when we're triggered, when something stings us, something is snapping at us, something is seething, or ooh, that doesn't feel good. That is a point that is being communicated to us internally as to a deep inside need. You had the vision, but it could have been a crystallized moment in a conversation with somebody where you felt that you were betrayed or abandoned and left hanging. And then you go, oh, dude, this goes back to. And in the moment, it's not really important to know what point in time or what specific event triggered that. Mm-hmm. It's simply like you did, just taking that awareness, noticing the trigger, noticing whatever event brings that to our forefront, and getting curious about it. The first thing I always tell people is to write it down. When the mind sees the hand writing something down, we personalize it for us. Our own handwriting is very personal, and this goes to the theory of mind with hypnotherapy and other stuff. But psychologically speaking, then we embrace whatever it is that's being written, and our mind, the goal-oriented machine that it is, takes that in and says, ooh, this is important. I need to do something about this. Mm-hmm. So if we build that awareness, we notice it, then we write it down. And write without editing. Write the bullshit. Write the okay.
This is my show. We can say that.
Okay. Write the crud that comes up. Be very judgmental. Write it all out, because it's what we think. It's how we're feeling anyway. Mm-hmm. It's those emotions that are trapped in there that need and are communicating to be expressed. Then you go into questioning each statement for validity. If this coworker of mine, she's tooting her horn and I'm mad at her, why am I mad at her? She's tooting her horn. She contributed to the project. She's simply talking about her role in the project. I'm upset because I equally am not talking about my role in the project. So why is that her fault? That's me. What is it inside of me that lives in here, that inner child that's afraid to stand up on that stage and say, was she ridiculed? Mm-hmm. Was she not allowed to really say her piece in life? Where does that live? So
these will show up as themes too, because you were talking, I thought of a perfect example years before I had that vision. Mm-hmm. And this always seemed to come up in my life. So I would work. I'm a hard worker. I work hard. I put my energy into it, but I'm not necessarily, that person who stands up and says, well, I'm great at this. I'm great at that. I'm great at this. And so I remember I had a job at a TV station, and I had put my heart and soul into creating this platform for non-traditional revenue for the TV station. Mm-hmm. And I remember in a sales meeting, the general sales manager got up and she was completely giving all the credit to another salesperson. And it literally, I felt like I was punched in the stomach. Yeah. And so my old self, my less evolved self, would always leave things in a huff. Oh yeah, well, I'll show you. So I went in and gave my notice and went to work for somebody else. And then something else happened, whether it was a personal relationship or something else, same thing. I got really good at leaving in a huff. Mm-hmm. But then it was like, why does this situation keep coming up for me? Yeah. Yeah. And again, the moment of like, okay, where am I not showing up for myself there? You know what? In that moment, long time ago, in that sales meeting, I could have said, oh, hey, I just want to point out the fact that these are the ways that I contributed to this initiative. And I just wanted to share that, I'm really excited that, the station got this award, and this was my role in that. So, or maybe having a private conversation with her, separately, or, something that where I found my voice and stood up. And
you spoke earlier about waiting for someone else to show up for you. And that's a big point. I can totally identify with, and I think a lot of people can, especially with, those early experiences, right? And the patterns of how those things show up, the faces change, the situations change, the themes change, right? The experiences are different, but it's all that same common denominator and pattern. That's another point of entry where we go, aha, notice the patterns. But showing up for ourselves is huge. And you mentioned it hit you in the gut. Well, that's that sacral and solar plexus chakra that is our sense of personal power, our own drives, our own passions, our own ambitions, our own creativity. And in that moment, you felt that violation of it because, like you said, you didn't show up for yourself and speak up and say. And so even physical sensations in the body are huge points of noticing and awareness that I invite and encourage people to really begin to go deep into and understand. For a lot of people who have gone through trauma, speaking personally early on, I was not very connected to my own physical body. To ask me what was going on in the moment or where I felt something in my body or even to take a breath and relax, I was like, what are you talking about? I had no idea. So it took a lot of intentionality, and building that awareness to do that. But yeah, those are all fantastic points of entry for us to build that noticing and develop those patterns.
Yeah. I think I was thinking as you were talking that, it's really easy to kind of identify these things in other people, like if you're really close to friends or family, and it's, I see somebody who, gets in romantic relationships and immediately starts to almost manifest the same relationship every time. And it's, there was a wound that happened where she felt, she was betrayed, wasn't treated well, etc. And so it was like, okay, the moment landed, and now she's manifesting similar relationships, and is, oftentimes she's attracting maybe similar archetypes.
Yes.
And so I can see it, right? I can sit here and say, okay, I can see this.
Sure.
But to be able to do that work yourself and quote unquote fix it, isn't necessarily always easy. Like, how would you work with somebody to help them bring awareness to the places that are damaged, that are still manifesting in their current moment?
Yeah, there's several layers there. So, you talking about it is very easy for us to look at other people, and a lot of people who get into, and I would include myself in that, healing, wellness, psychology, kind of help the giver, nursing, etc., first responders, all of that, they're playing out those archetypes, right, of looking to fix other people, but it's really that core wound of needing to fix this. Yeah. The mind, again, is wired for threat assessment, right? So anything that is perceived as a threat to the survivability, and that includes our mental and emotional states, not only just physical states, is a threat. And so the mind will avoid. So very frequently we will avoid our own stuff, but we'll try to stick our nose in other people's business and fix their stuff, believing on that energetic level that it's really fixing us, right? There's the martyr, there's the savior, there's the hero, etc. So for individuals, they usually come to me and They have the same thing. My life isn't working. I don't understand why I'm always in these relationships. I don't understand. I'm always anxious. I'm always this. I'm always that, et cetera, et cetera. And so for some people, they're really ready to, yank that Band-Aid off. For some people, we kind of have to go at it gently. But really, it is listening to what's going on within them and encouraging them and saying that you're exactly where you need to be, because all of these events have brought you to this moment where you can get still and quiet and pay attention and listen. I've had some clients really, really respond to that and go, this is a hell yes, and I'm ready, and let's do it, and let's dive in, and thank you, you freed me of this prison that I built but didn't really exist. Other people get really terrified, challenged, and they stay stuck in the victim, and they stay stuck in the prison, and they just don't want to come out. Those are individuals who there's something in there that's a payoff for them. That's another thing for us to look at. What is our payoff? Are we somebody who just complains and vents in order to gain sympathy, right? And we are tied to the story of our drama? Or do we go to individuals and say, hey, I have a blind side here, clearly, and I'm just not getting it, and I really want to get it. Will you just be honest with me, cut through the crap, and tell me what you see, right? So there's two different approaches there. It's not that the person who's stuck in the drama and the story can't get out of it, but life is going to kick them in the teeth repeatedly.
Right.
Until they
get it.
Exactly.
Yeah. It usually gets worse, from my experience. Like, it gets worse before it gets better. I've gotten to a point, which is interesting, where when life gets tough, whether that's personal relationships, career, whatever, there is part of me that's almost separated, because I know that this could be a brilliant moment. I've done enough research and reading and worked on myself that when everything's not working, there's part of me that's almost a little bit excited, because that's the moment when something's going to break and come clear. And so I think a lot of us are feeling all sorts of, I think stuff is probably emerging from the depths right now.
A lot. Oh my gosh.
The ugly monsters.
Carpet bubbling up,
Which, back when we had a normal life, we were getting rubbed, drinking coffee, getting kids to school, going to work, and we could not worry about that. But when you sit with yourself, and your closest loved ones that are triggering you,
yes. Well,
this is like a beautiful moment right now. To pay attention to what really is rising up and surfacing in you, and try to take ownership of what within yourself you haven't addressed that's causing such a strong, like you said earlier, mirror, a mirror reaction.
100%. We can look at it from the standpoint of, yes, this situation is less than ideal. And you said, it's kind of wonked us off of our normal routine, but was that routine actually normal anyway? Was that routine very healthy for us? It's not, from the standpoint, if it's distracting us from our ultimate and realized manifesting in this existence. We're not human doers, we're human beings, and we're called to simply be. And we're spiritual, having the human experience. So it's important for us to understand that we've come here to fully experience what it means to be human. And that is the spectrum of contrasting events, of learning our shadow, learning our inner child stuff, healing, these areas. Understanding and knowing bliss and joy comes from understanding and knowing pain and sorrow and loss and grief and devastation. we don't know what joy and bliss and happiness, like you referred to earlier, means truly until we've had a contrast of that as well. And it's in those contrasts, the amazing thing that I've found, and the very hopeful thing that I've found, is that even in the contrast, there's always those beautiful threads running through it of being protected, being provided for, safety, security, love, growth, realization, understanding. And I now can look at early events and see them for the blessing and the gift that they were, honestly. Mm-hmm. And some of you might think that I'm really weird, and she's like, oh, positivity. Hell no. I go through those moments you talked about. You have to get through it, you've got to go through it. But the breakthrough understanding is that everything shows up for me to serve me, for my highest and best, for my ultimate good, for my ultimate favor, so that I can clean it and clear it, release it, radiate out more love to myself and to others around me, and release those wounds, but also have that rich life that all of us want, and it comes from fully being present in every moment, however it shows up.
Yeah. And to add on to your point, it's, if everything was easy breezy,
right,
we would just keep skating through life. And I don't think we would really take time to question, be curious, wonder why I'm having this reaction. Why did I allow myself to stay in a bad relationship for so long? Why did I tolerate a horrible boss?
Yes.
Or why do I keep victimizing people?
Yes.
So it's through these moments of pain and uncomfortableness that you do pause the, automatic button.
Yes.
And question those type things. And so, I would say to people, especially now in these moments when times probably are uncomfortable, is to see what is surfacing, what is making you angry, what is making you upset, what is triggering you, and take some moments to really try to see how that pattern has probably been in your life, and that a lot of times when we're on automatic, they don't come up because you're busy doing everything else. And so
exactly, there's too much noise going on, right? And it distracts us from all of that, and then we don't hear what's being communicated. Bringing up going through these contrasting events, you reminded me, if you're someone who loves to work out and build muscle, or just get lean and all of that, muscles have to be torn apart in order to expand and build bulk and grow. And so we have that pain of soreness, but we know with the soreness comes, a tighter back end, right? The flab goes bye-bye, the fat burns away, and we're left with this really cool looking, muscle in our arm or our back or our abs, whatever. So there is in life, there is that creation and destruction cycle, but there's no beginning point of creation and ending point for destruction. It's all together in that same circle. And it's a blend of everything. Something in your life isn't working, it comes to that natural end, but it's because that has to happen in order for a new beginning to come forward. Right? And children are so highly adaptable to that. They move and flow through their emotions and through life. And that's why this inner child work is so sacred, because if we can tap back into that childlike innocence and curiosity, and really move and flow in through life, then, man, our lives take on a whole new meaning and a whole new feeling and adaptability. It's incredible, the work that it does. 100%. Yeah.
Yes. Well, I really fully believe in this type work, and there's all different ways to approach it. And you named some great authors, Joseph Campbell. Yeah. I was I was actually filming my very first TV show in Kentucky, and we went to the monks in Gethsemane, where he was based, where his grave is. So I visited his grave there, which was amazing. Carl Jung, of course, Carolyn Mice, read all of them, loved them. Yep, Byron
Katie.
Byron.
My hero.
But it's also your passion and your expertise. So I'm going to put up here for everybody so they know how to get in touch with you. And if you just want to share maybe some of the different ways in which you work with people, hopefully somebody will feel a calling from this conversation and want to make connection with you. Sure,
that would be awesome. I am a channeled healer for the healing space. And so I have healing insight sessions that I work with people, bringing all of my modalities into that, and it's customized to whatever your need is for that session. I also do channeled regression, life regression work. That's at minimum a 2-hour appointment, but we really dive into life regression. Whether or not you believe in it, it's immaterial. It always brings up current stuff. And it helps illuminate. Yeah, it's fascinating.
All of these work can be done with you remotely.
Yep, all of it's remote. Yep. Perfect. And then I also offer like a group gallery, spirit readings, and things like that. Messages that are very healing, but also again highlighting and pointing areas of most need and attention. And then I have some courses. I have a course on the chakras, and I have an inner child divine release course that I'm developing too and getting ready to launch. So I also have these little inner child curiosity journaling cards too.
Okay. Perfect. So reach out to Raelin. You can see her email and her web address here, and lots of good stuff. And to get in contact with me, my email is debrak@wellworld.tv, and you can find us on Facebook and YouTube at Wellworld TV for both locations, Instagram, Facebook, YouTube, trying to develop all the social platforms. And again, like I said in the beginning, drop me a note. We're looking for people to interview, people to host their own shows just like this. Part of what's happening right now too is all these people that have thought about doing video are now saying, okay, you know what? I have to do video. So Wellworld TV was really created to provide you the resources so you can go live and start helping us positively change the world. So thank you so much, Raelin, for joining us today. And again, reach out, make contact, and let's work on doing some inner work on our inner child. Yes. Some inner work on our inner child. I screwed it up at the end. That's all right. We'll see you next time, guys. Bye. Bye.